All right, so everyone, today we're doing a deep dive on something I think we can all relate to. Screen time. Specifically, how to manage it. Like, seriously, how do we tame this tech beast, especially with our kids? I've got this article here by a parent, Let's Learn Kelvy, and I feel like I might be onto something. And honestly, some of these strategies are seriously clever, especially for all you parents out there dealing with little gamers. I've got to unpack all of this with the amazing Lily Rose. Lily, this feels like the ultimate parenting puzzle these days, right?
It really does feel like every generation gets its own unique set of challenges. And for us, yeah, it's definitely figuring out this whole raising kids in a world dominated by screens thing. But what I found really refreshing about this article is that it's not like, it doesn't demonize technology altogether. It's more about like finding that sweet spot where you can actually make tech work for your family.
100%.
Yeah.
And they jump right in talking about how much our kids pick up just from watching us. Like, even when we don't realize it, They mentioned catching their kid pretending to have a phone call, just mimicking them. And it was this huge wake-up call about how much they're absorbing just by observing us.
It's amazing how kids are like little sponges, always watching, always imitating. It's just how they learn best at that age.
Yeah.
So even if we're glued to our phones for work or just to unwind, we're kind of sending this message, whether we intend to or not, about what we prioritize.
Yeah, it's like that classic saying, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
But honestly, with kids, it just doesn't fly, right?
Yeah.
They're way more likely to just copy what we do. So modeling the behavior we want to see, I think, is key here. And it's not just about like our own screen time, but also about that setting those ground rules, which they talk about. Things like no unsupervised content, stuff like that. I thought those were really smart.
Boundaries are absolutely essential. It gives kids that structure. It helps them understand what's okay and what's not okay. And I love that they actually gave an example of navigating this whole thing with grandparents. Because let's be real, that's a struggle for a lot of families out there, right?
Oh, tell me about it. Grandparents can be the sneakiest culprits when it comes to extra screen time. The author mentioned having that conversation up front, like explaining the boundaries they've set and why those boundaries are important.
Having those open lines of communication is so important. When everyone's on the same page, it creates that consistency. And consistency equals security and understanding for the child. And speaking of consistency, this next part really surprised me, actually. So they decided to get their kid their own tablet.
Right. I know at first I thought the same thing, is like giving them more ammunition. But then when they explained their reasoning, honestly, it was kind of like, hear me out on this.
It's like instead of always being the bad guy, always saying no to screens, it's about shifting that dynamic. You're creating this safe space, a controlled digital playground, you could say, where they can actually explore and learn.
Totally. And they were really clear about the whole controlled aspect. They talked about like curating the apps, setting those time limits, even having different profiles for different things.
Exactly. It's all about creating those digital boundaries, just like we were talking about earlier. And what I think is so powerful about this approach is it really gives that sense of ownership to the child.
Right. They get to have some say in what they're doing, even within those boundaries. It's not just the parent dictating every little thing.
Yeah.
But okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to screen time. Gaming. I think this is where a lot of us parents really hit a wall,
Oh, absolutely. I'm curious, what was their approach to gaming?
Okay, so get this. They actually embraced it, which I was surprised by at first. They let their kid have car games, bike games, all on the tablet. But here's the catch. There was one very important rule. 1 hour of total playtime, and that's it. But here's where it gets really interesting. They didn't just let their kid use it all up at once.
Okay, you've got to tell me, what did they do? I need to know.
They came up with this system. And I'm not kidding. The article called it strategic rationing.
Come on, that's genius, right?
That's amazing. And you know what? They're teaching their kid valuable skills without even realizing it.
Tell me more. What are they teaching them?
It's all about delayed gratification.
Oh, I see it.
It's about mindful consumption, understanding that you don't need to consume everything all at once.
And it sounds like it actually worked. They said their kids started to self-regulate. Like they naturally gravitated towards those shorter bursts of playtime. Like they found that perfect balance. It shows the power of autonomy, even in those small doses. When kids have the space to make their own choices, even within a structured environment, it really helps them develop that sense of responsibility, that self-efficacy, knowing they can manage their own behavior.
It's like they figured out, okay, I've got this much time and I can use it however I want.
Yeah.
Instead of just like going all in and then it's over.
Exactly. And that's such a valuable lesson, not just for screen time, but for life in general, right?
Right. And they even said that this whole approach, it kind of spilled over into other areas.
Yeah.
Like their kid was more into other activities, less whiny about wanting more screen time.
It's amazing how when you give kids the tools to manage one area of their lives, it often empowers them to take ownership in other areas as well.
Totally. It's not about controlling every single thing they do. It's about giving them the skills to make those good choices on their own. And you know what? It reminds me of that saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
Oh, I love that.
Except in this case, it's like we're teaching them how to navigate this ocean of digital fish. You know?
That's such a great analogy. Because it really is about navigating. It's not about being afraid of technology. It's about learning how to use it responsibly.
And teaching our kids to do the same. So to all you listeners out there, I hope this deep dive has given you some things to think about. Maybe even sparked some ideas for your own family.
Because even small changes can make a world of difference.
Absolutely. And remember, it's a journey, not a race, right?
Exactly. Be patient with yourselves. Be patient with your kids. And keep those conversations going.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time.